Welcome to the latest edition of All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alster. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. We're going to be joined by longtime Capitals trainer and former Washington football trainer now, Greg Smith, who has some of the best stories you're ever going to want to hear about some football stories, some hockey stories, and Karl, some stories about you, which were terrific.
Yeah, Smitty's a guy that has seen and heard everything. You know, the way that the rink works is you come in, you change out of your street clothes into your undergear, and then I'd say like 80% of the guys go straight to the medical room and just hang out, sit on the tables, sit on the stools. Guys are doing crosswords, just chatting and joking around. So like he hears everything and he sees everything, and he's got a good memory, and he's been around for so long. So he gave us a few pretty good ones there, but I mean, that's a vault that if we could ever tap into a vault, that's the one that you'd want to get into, because he can go on forever. So it was very, very fun and very fortunate to have him on there.
And he's a fellow short guy like myself. I'm 5'6" and a half or so. He's what, 5 foot maybe?
Yeah, I think he's about 5 feet tall, and he mentions it a few times in our chat. So if anyone's wondering why he's saying what he's saying, it's because he considers himself a little person, and at the rink, I mean, we're looking for anything to pick on somebody about, and so he was good about it.
And he seems like over the decades he's handled that well.
He's handled it really well. Like I'll tell you, there's one other thing that's really funny in one part of the at Kettler, there's these two doors. One led to the stick room, and so it was just a regular door, and then right beside it was a furnace room, and the door was half the height of the stick room door. And so guys would always steal Smitty's like nameplate from his office and put it above that door, as that was being his room. And like you have to be at the rink, you got to have a thick skin, and Smitty has a thick skin, and he was good about it, especially when Curdy, we mentioned too in the interview, Curtis Millar, he had probably the thickest skin of them all, because he was so good of making everybody enjoy the jokes that they were telling.
Yeah, please stay tuned for some Alex Simmons stories, Boyd Gordon stories. Like if you're a Caps fan of a certain vintage, you're going to enjoy these stories. Trust me. Unfortunately, the most recent Capitals performance hasn't been great. The 7-3 loss to the Bruins, 4 losses in a row. For lack of a better question, what's wrong right now with this team?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I always notice, and I know a lot of people notice, is that when a team comes in that you're say you're playing against a team that has a lot of injuries and you got a lot of call-ups, the guys that are called up, they're working their tails off, and they're underestimated, and a lot of times they put up a really hard fight, and you don't take them serious enough, and they end up stunning you. And the game isn't as easy as you're hoping it's going to be. And so there's been a kind of a revolving door of players that have been in and out of the lineup right now. And every time somebody comes up, they're looking to really prove themselves, and they're going, full tilt, and it's hard to play against that. And then you start getting some guys back that everyone's healthy again, and it's like everybody kind of like usually takes their foot off the gas just a little bit, because they're like, okay, now we have all our guys back. Like we look so much better on paper now. We should just continue winning or win these games. And it just doesn't work like that. Other teams see the names in the lineup, and then they work a little bit harder to beat them. So it happens all the time. The key is to not let a slide like this go on too long. Like I think I've mentioned once before, when you're a good team, we'd always say, good teams don't lose 2 games in a row. And if you do lose 2, you definitely don't lose 3. And so you don't want to let this slide. 4 games is already too many. I know that's what the guys would be feeling too, but it's guys that are getting back up to speed after not playing a lot, and older guys that it takes a little bit longer to get the body going. The mind is there, but the body sometimes takes a little bit longer to get back into it. And so maybe that would be my guess of what's going on right now.
Yeah, and the bad part is this is a disjointed schedule, because then it's like a 5-day break or 4-day break after a 4th consecutive loss. And Nick Dowd the other night is like, I don't want to break. This is not a good time for this. Like, I want to get back playing again. because at a certain point, you got to get tired of practicing and trying to fix the same things that you could do whatever you want in practice. If you fall flat again in that fifth game, none of that was worth it.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough way. I guess it's a tough coaching decision on what to do. Like you don't really want to reward your team for losing 4 games in a row, but you also don't want to skate the guys for, I'm sure they had a day off, at least one day off for
Yes.
3 days hard and just harping on all these things that you're doing wrong. Like as a player, you want to get back out there the next day to fix it. Obviously that's not the option. So what do you do as a coach? Do you try and take their minds off it and have some fun? Like I'd say that was one of the greatest things about when Barry Trotz and Todd Reardon with Foz and Lane Lambert were the guys, is they're so good at just taking our minds away from it. Like we'd have days where it was just game days where we would D versus forwards. We try and rack up points in these little scrimmages and stuff like that, just to get our heads away from it. Or we'd have full ice scrimmages where we can go out there and actually, work on some game-like situations. Right. And so it's just depending on what the staff wants to do. It in a way seems like a reward because you don't have to go out there and bag skate, but it's really, in my opinion, a smart coaching decision to do something like that. But I'm not in the room. You're not in the room. We don't know exactly how everybody's feeling, and so we'll see what they end up doing. But yeah, it's those 4 days will seem like a week.
Yeah, and Nick Dowd also pointed out that like this is not just losing one different way. Like they've lost games and blowing leads and losing in overtime, and sometimes it's the goalie, and sometimes it's a puck in your own net. The Carl Hagelin own goal against Minnesota contributes. It does that as a player make it harder when it's not just one way. You're not either giving up a ton of goals or not scoring any goals. That there's so many different ways you're losing. Does that make it harder?
It's tough. I think to me it would seem more like the way that I would try and play it in my head is like, oh, it's just kind of weird things, weird anomalies. It's different ways that we're losing. It's not like every game we're bad in third periods, and like why are we doing, or why do our starts suck so bad? That to me would bug me more because I wouldn't be able to figure out why can't we just fix this? It seems so easy, but when you lose games in different ways, I feel like it's a little bit easier to turn the page. However, if you're losing these games 7-3 all the time, then it gets pretty frustrating. But if you're losing tight games and overtime games or whatever, then I don't know. That's the way that I would probably justify it. Everybody's maybe a little bit different, so it's hard to say for sure. But you just don't want to have losing streaks. You can't do that, and you always got to put together a few winning streaks to have a good showing. But this is kind of we're getting to the hump of the season where guys are weather sucks, it's cold outside, and you've already played a ton of games, your body hurts, and it's hard to push through that. And there's some teams that have rough patches like that, and as long as they can start ramping up at a good time, it's not such a big deal, but it kind of weighs on you mentally when you stop winning.
Yeah, and that's what, and I don't want to blame the goalies because it's not all on the goalies. And I know you and I have talked about we're not goalie coaches, we're not goalies, but Zach Fucale starts his career with the longest shutout streak, 138 minutes, and then 4 goals on 16 shots, gets the hook. He's back to Hershey. You know what that commute's like from Arlington to Hershey and back and forth and back and forth. But have we seen the end of Zach Fucale? Is the answer and goal on this team right now with Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek?
Well, look, that's the question, right? Whenever you ask anybody, like what do the Caps need, and goaltending seems to be something that they bring up. But I've listened to a couple guys talk about it, and when they're asked the question, it seems like they're behind their guys, which obviously they're not going to come out and say like, no, we need a goalie. That's not something they would say. But I think they feel confident that these guys can be the answer, could be the ticket for them. But at the same time, I think it would make everybody feel a little bit better to have, a veteran in there, someone with a little bit more of a resume would probably go
like a guy with a Vezina trophy, a Stanley Cup ring, who might be playing somewhere in Texas right now, maybe.
I think that would fire guys up pretty good. You know what? that's my thought that something like that could help. However,
Me too.
it's just about getting hot at the right time though, right? There's so many guys that come, like Matt Murray kind of came out of nowhere for Pittsburgh and got hot at the right time. And next thing you know, he wins a couple cups, he gets the contract, things have kind of turned a little bit since then, but that's all it's about. And if you can give a guy enough confidence and the team can help by, limiting the tough shots, like last game with Fucali, he had to go side to side quite a few times, and guys shooting puck like pretty great shots. Those are tough saves to make. So you're trying to help your goalie out as much as possible, especially if you have a young guy too. It's like you watch teams closely when they have a young guy in net or a call up or whatever it is. Like guys are blocking way more. Guys are way more responsible defensively, and if you aren't, like you're getting a pee whack like after the game. Like you needed to be better and help this guy out because you just hung him out to dry. So it's just those things where everyone has a bad day. Sometimes the team collectively has a bad day, and then you get a result like a 7-3 loss, and it's just frustrating for everyone. But being a goldfish is important, as Ted Lasso likes to say.
You love Ted Lasso more than anything.
I really do.
Here's the thing. It's not that I don't think Vitek Vanacek or Ilya Samsonov could be that guy to get hot. It's just, to me, Alex Ovechkin's having maybe the best season of his career. And he's 36 years old, and Nick Backstrom's getting up in age, and TJ Oshie's getting up in age. We're all getting older. And do you want to go into the playoffs trusting that one of these guys is going to be your guy? And to me, who cares if you give up a 2024, 25 first round pick? No one's going to cry about it if you have a long playoff run this year, if you give yourself a chance, because banners fly forever. And if you, to me, that's what I think Brian McClellan may be thinking. I can't get in his brain right now, but I think he's got to be thinking, this is the season. Like, you got to go all in on Alex Ovechkin still playing like this, that you can't trust it on one of these guys getting hot, or look, one of these guys or both these guys gets injured and you have to play a Zach Fucali or Phoenix Copley in the playoffs. Like we had Craig Anderson starting for the Capitals last year in the playoffs because of injuries. And to me, that's why a Braden Holtby, a James Reimer, a Marc-Andre Fleury, which would be a dream story for all of us. Somebody like that would have to come in just as almost like a backup plan, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I think the hard thing too, as a GM, if I put my GM hat on, is like you're so worried to lose a guy that turns into something great. Like we look back at Philip Forsberg and trading him early, and then he turns into what he turns into, right? So you're always worried about that. The nice thing is you have two guys that are young, so you can afford to let one go if you have to, and you probably let go of the one that has the highest stock, right? Because you get more in return for that. I guess maybe that's tough to say that you do that, because the guy that you're getting in return might only be a 1 year.
I think who you're getting is a rental. Yes.
Yeah, you're getting a rental. So maybe that's not the way to go about it, but I feel like you can let one guy go and get something pretty darn good in return. And it's just hard to make that decision because you don't want to kick yourself looking back on it after in 2 or 3 years. But that's the business we're in, right? Like you kind of you look at your window and you try and win now. And the window, we've been saying this for years, that the window's only been 1 year, 2 years, but it's clearly been stretched long past what we had originally thought.
And give Brian McClellan and the players on this team a lot of credit for how long the window has been, because teams usually aren't this good for this long. And that is a credit to Brian McClellan, and he's done a good job. I have a lot of Philip Forsberg thoughts, but not right now. We'll have a future trade deadline episode. We're gonna have George McPhee on at some point as well, because there's things about that I don't want to throw George under the bus for that one. I just, as much as people look back and say the Philip Forsberg thing, I will defend George to the death on the Philip Forsberg trade on parts of it, and then I will crush him on other parts of it. And he and I have privately chatted about this, not to be written, but there are things about that trade anyway. Busy stretch coming up for the Capitals at the Islanders. A bunch of home games. On a Cliff Notes version, what do you want to see differently out of this team to take a losing streak and turn it into a winning streak?
I want to see odd man rushes be limited. Sure. I want teams need to really work for their goals against them, and And especially because, us talking about goaltending, you don't want to give teams any freebies. And when your confidence isn't that great, like, you need to play, tight hockey and make sure that you're doing the right things. And as much as you want to go out there and have fun, you can't be too free flowing. Like, you need to grind out a couple tough wins to get the morale up. I think that's where we need to see things change right now. And you know what I really actually do want to see? I was at the game against Boston, and obviously always having a hell of a season, and he's an assist master now. I want to see him shoot more though too. Like he's had a couple chances on 2-on-1s, and he made that great play on the Oshie goal. But like, he's getting in tight still too, and he can bury these just as well as he can pass them and someone else score them. And it's probably the internal struggle of, I don't want people to think that I'm just shooting to beat this record. But I don't think anybody's gonna ever say anything different. Everyone loves Ovi here in the city and around the league. But I want to see him shoot more. I want to see him light the lamps. I think when Ovi scores, it fires the team up. And so I think that would go a long way.
Do you want to see him with the one-timer on the power play? Because he hasn't scored a whole lot of those this year.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see when he comes down the wing and him just snapping a few, low glove, far side, how he likes to do it. I just want to see him shoot. I think that's one of the most fun things in hockey is watching him unleash a puck. And so he's playing unbelievable, and I love that he's getting some credit for his ability to pass and make plays. But I also really want to see him shoot.
So you're gonna be one of those fans in the crowd yelling "shoot" because I know how much you love that.
Yeah, never in a million years. If I ever did that, pull my tongue. Yeah, no, that would never happen. But inside, I'm thinking, and I'm sure he knows it too. He's like, I could probably shoot this right here. Good chance that I could score. However, I have a teammate right there, and I'm gonna feed him. So I think it just goes to show how, he's probably evolved a little bit, and he's very selfless now. He wants everyone to have some success. But I think you have 95% of hockey fans that are cheering for him to beat that record.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is a long game where all of a sudden he's the assist guy for 40 games, and all of a sudden he's like, no, screw this, I'm not passing the puck now, and then he scores 50 again this year.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think you'll see what the team needs, and he's the type of guy that can literally take a team on his back and win games when he wants to do that. And I think when he feels necessary, then he'll tweak something and he'll go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, it's I think everybody needs to just do a little bit better, just a little bit more responsibility out there. And I think that'll help everybody out.
Well, we're going to do better after this because we're joined by former Capitals trainer Greg Smith. Please stay tuned on All's Caps. You will not regret it.